Can you hear me? Oh, I can't hear. Oh, you're muted. That's why.
All right.
There you are. Oh, you look so. Oh.
Hi.
Hi. You're all tan and like.
Yeah, that's what happens when I just look at the sun. I get brown.
Oh yeah. Actually, me too.
Yeah.
I have to really be careful. Like, I don't ever use sunscreen, and I have all kinds of like spots and
Oh
things
yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
I've always been really sun baby.
Yep.
Oh, I'm excited for this. So I'm just grabbing your bio so I have it in front of me. Oh, I have to send you the mock-up of those. Oh, I can admit. I'm gonna let Tasha in. I'll let her in right at mock-up of the ladies that we were designing when I thought I was messaging Pandora and I got you. It's like when I use chat on my laptop, it doesn't put, for some reason, the names of people in the contact, just their phone numbers. So right. I sometimes like lose track. It's not great. I don't know why it does that. DeeDee. Okay. Whew. It is so, is it super hot over there?
Oh, it's been raining, so it's not as hot. It was like 100 degrees last week, and then a big storm came in Saturday night. Tornado warnings everywhere. It was scary because I was at the beach and my son was here, as he didn't want to hang out with his two moms in a trailer. So yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Oh, we lost DeeDee. Maybe I should turn off that. Oh, it's 5. Okay. So people should be able to come in now. Okay, disable the meeting. There she is. Where, Tasha, you are like, where are you? You're on the move.
Nah, I'm on my family's land. I'm planting.
Awesome. Is that the farm that you posted about?
You said, yeah. Where I'm teaching people how to grow food. Yeah, that's it.
That's so cool.
You guys can see it. That's my son. Being my free labor. Well, not exactly. I feed and clothe him, so.
I think that's fair. I have that too.
There's some local people here talking about the accelerator for this year.
Say that again?
I had some local people asking questions about the accelerator this year.
Oh, yay. That's so good. We definitely want to promote it. There are 2 more weeks for sign up, so I'll make an announcement about that. Hello, everyone. As you're joining us, we are going to get started about 5 minutes after 5 to let a few more people end their workday and log in to the call. So we're super happy you're here, and we will be with you shortly. Okay. Just a couple more minutes. Okay. Hello, everyone. So we are expecting more people to trickle in over the course of the call, but I think in respect to time, we should get started. We are super happy that you have joined this World Weaver Salon today, featuring U.S. Accelerator alumni DeeDee Belmares. She is the climate justice organizer in San Antonio, Texas, with Public Citizen, and is going to do some storytelling today, tell us about her work in the world and what she, as she's transitioning her community from coal-powered plants to clean renewable energy. So it would be wonderful if in the chat rooms, you could use the chat section of the Zoom call today to type in any questions or comments, which I will make sure at the right moment get to DeeDee, and I will be managing the chat room. So if you have any comments or anything you'd like to share or questions, please put them in the chat. And we do expect more people to be filing in, but I think we should just get started. So DeeDee, welcome, and thank you so much for sharing with us today.
Thanks for having me. It's always great to get on these calls and getting back to work with the Women's Earth Alliance, and know some of y'all that are on this call, some names I don't recognize. So I want to start off by saying I hope everybody is healthy and safe right now. We're in some tough times, and I hope you and your family, your loved ones, neighbors are staying safe and have everything that you need to stay safe and healthy. It's important to take care of each other, and so that we can keep on fighting this fight of climate change. And that's kind of what I want to talk to you all about in the work that I'm doing here in San Antonio, and that I've been doing for a while in San Antonio. I was born and raised here, born and raised in San Antonio, Texas, and I've lived here all my life. I will always be here in Texas because there's it's what I love, and there's a lot of work to do. Where I was where I was raised, where I grew up in the neighborhood, the part of the city was home to every environmental justice out there. Coal power plants, I live very near a refinery, a metal waste facility that polluted neighborhoods around there, including my grandparents' house. For a long time, my grandparents were not able to garden because they were told not to. It was just not safe from that facility. There is also a military base that is no longer open that spewed a lot of toxic waste into the neighborhood, into the groundwater. And many women in the neighborhood suffered from breast cancer. And I had a friend from college whose mother died from breast cancer, and she lived only 1.7 miles from that military base. So early on, I learned that there are certain places that suffer the most from environmental injustice. I don't know if we called it that back then, but I knew that there was something definitely wrong with the air that we were breathing, and for some people, the water that they were drinking. I also live in Texas, which is the #1 oil and gas state in the country. And when I was a kid, we would go from San Antonio down to the coastal area. We would go fishing, and I love going to the beach. It's still today one of my favorite places to visit with my family. But along the way, over the years, I have seen more refineries pop up. I've seen more fracking places, the well pads, the flaring, and I think it was, I don't know, it was probably about 15 years ago, 10 years ago, where I just said, you know, it seems like more of these things are popping up, that it made me realize that we're really destroying our planet, and we're destroying the state that I love, and especially to be out at the beach and to look out into the water and see oil rigs out in the beautiful coastal area. So that really is what kind of propelled me into the movement, seeing all the fracking that is going around. I live only about 45 minutes away from a Halliburton facility, and that is very big on fracking. So that's what propelled me into the movement, and just wanting to protect the beaches, protect what I love, to protect the state that I love. I have a 17-year-old son who I love to take with me as well to the beach, and I hope someday that I'll be taking my grandkids, his kids, and do the same thing I did with him. So I've got to, I feel like this is something I have to do not only for myself, but for my son and other families and other children to come along. Here in San Antonio, I work for Public Citizen. I am a climate justice organizer, and the bulk of my work is working in a coalition within the environmental movement. And we have been working first, what brought this coalition together, and probably many of y'all are in coalitions also across the country. We first worked with the city of San Antonio to create a climate action and adaptation plan, which was passed in October of last year. And that would set the city on course to be carbon neutral by 2050. So once we got that passed, our coalition started looking at the coal plants. The city of San Antonio has a municipally owned utility company called CPS Energy, and they have 2 remaining coal plants left. So we are working on a just transition plan to move from dirty coal to renewable energy. For any of y'all who are not too familiar with coal power plants, I mean, that is how most of the country generates its electricity. They're very polluting. Here in San Antonio, we're looking at about almost 8 million metric tons of carbon pollution every year. That accounts for almost half of the carbon pollution in our air, in the air that we breathe every single year. So it's very critical that we address coal power plants throughout the country, not just here in Texas. And here in Texas, we are the largest emitter of greenhouse gas emissions, and the coal plants across the state account for about 61% of the greenhouse gas emissions. So we know that the greenhouse gases are what's driving climate change. But here or everywhere, we also know that the pollution coming from the coal power plants also have health impacts. Asthma is an issue here in San Antonio, in our county, bronchitis, and also aggravates other upper respiratory illnesses. So not only are coal power plants driving climate change, they're affecting our health because we're breathing in that toxic air. I was just checking everybody's good, making sure nobody had any questions so far. So, like I said, I work within a coalition. We work with the utility company to close the coal plants. We're looking at a couple of target dates. 2025. There's two remaining. 2025 or 2030 at the latest. So we work with the leadership at the utility company, and we also work with the city of San Antonio. Our mayor is, and our city council, we are pretty fortunate that they are open-minded to closing these power plants. They understand the severity of the climate crisis and the need to move away from dirty fossil fuel use and to clean renewable energy. Working with the utility is far more difficult. They are, like any utility company has, they have a business to run, and this utility is kind of very closed and tight and hard to penetrate and make their business operations transparent. So we work very close with them. Obviously, with COVID coming into play, it's been hard, with one-on-one meetings, face-to-face meetings. So we've been trying to adapt to this new work environment and having online meetings like this and phone calls to keep on doing the work that we're doing, because we're in the middle of a health crisis, and that is taking up everybody's attention, and it's understandable that it's a very scary time. We got to take care of ourselves, but in the background we got to keep in mind that we still have this climate crisis that is not going away. I know we see pictures on the news or in social media about China, the air's getting better because people have been indoors, but as people start coming back out into back into the life that we were used to, driving cars again, buses, that the pollution's still there, climate change is still there. And so we have to address it, even right now when it is such a tough time dealing with COVID, that we still have to keep our eyes and our focus on whether it's closing coal plants, maybe for some people it's working in nuclear, maybe it's refineries, whichever climate issue is going on in your community, we have to keep on moving forward, because we're still in this climate crisis.
DeeDee, in what ways has the vision of your work pivoted in respect to COVID? Where is your focus going now that you're not mobilizing humans, bringing people actually together in the same space? What are some of the strategies that you're adopting now?
Well, we are as a coalition, we are still meeting. We're still having meetings. We're doing it, via online conferencing. We took a little break. I mean, we were slowing down there for a while, because it's understandable that everybody's attention was on, staying at home, taking care of your children, maybe not working. There are a lot of people that are not at work at this time, so we had to be, we have to be sensitive to that. But when that time comes, when we are all able to go about as normal as we can, when the stay-at-home restrictions are lifted, I don't want to be behind the eight ball. I want to be ahead of it. Like we don't want to stop what we're doing. That it's only pivoted in the way that we've communicated, whether it's through phone calls or through online conferencing. But the work hasn't stopped. You just have to adapt to it, but also, excuse me, but also be mindful and respectful and sensitive to people who just don't have it in them right now. There are some people who they just don't, and that's understandable, because you're worried about your kids, you're worried about your family, you're worried that you don't have a job, you may not have a job to go back, or maybe wages have been cut back because business is slow. So we've had to really be respectful that not everybody has has 100% to give.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that you're working on a just transition framework to get folks, a journey to be able mapped for people to journey from dirty coal to renewables. And I was wondering if you could just tell us more about the steps in that framework and what you're envisioning.
Sure. We recognize that we know that we have to close coal plants. We know that we have to reduce our fossil fuel usage if we're going to slow the impacts of climate change in order to have a habitable planet. But we also have to keep in mind that there are people who work at these coal plants. For some, some coal plants could have as few as 30, 50 employees. Some of the larger ones could have, 300-400 employees. And we're very considerate that labor has to play a leading role in that transition because it's affecting their jobs. It's affecting their jobs. It affects their families. It affects their income. But and right now, it's even more important to have labor and to consider them in our just transition, because when we come out of this COVID crisis, like I said before, there's still going to be people who have not been working for months, and they're facing a lot of financial hardships. And the last thing that climate justice, environmental justice communities want to happen is for people to lose their jobs. So what a just transition looks like is working with labor, with the people that are working at these coal plants, working with the utility company, coming up with job training, coming up with alternative jobs in the renewable energy sector. It's 2020, our target date for closing these coal plants, 2025, 2030 at the latest. So this is not something that can happen overnight. So in any community, we need to start planning now for those families, for those workers.
And can you tell us about your community's climate action plan and your connection to that plan?
So in 2017, the mayor of San Antonio, his name is Mayor Nierenberg, and City Council adopted a resolution to create a plan that mirrored the Paris Climate Agreement. That was back in 2017. The city, along with the utility company and the University of Texas here in San Antonio, started forming different committees to start working on creating this plan. There are various committees like energy and buildings, an equity committee, land use and water. There was also a steering committee made up of different organizations and businesses that kind of help bring together all of the work from the different working groups and put it together so that, along with a consultant agency, we put together this plan. I came in kind of late into the process of the climate plan, but I did sit on the steering committee, and that was 2 years worth of work trying to put this plan together, making it something that would make the city of San Antonio resilient and adaptable to climate change and being able to mitigate the effects of climate change. But like I said, in October 2017, the plan was passed. It's not the perfect plan, but it is definitely putting us on the path in the right direction. Texas is a very conservative state. What we're finding right now is because of the federal government, this administration has done everything it possibly can with the Environmental Protection Agency to water down safeguards and regulations that protect our air, protect our water, that the federal government's not taking care of us. They're not addressing climate change. It's up to the states and if you live in a conservative state like Texas, it's up to the local government, the local cities to take action to say, no, we want to take action on climate. We're going to come up with climate plans. We're going to close, coal plants or, whatever issue it is across the country. So that's what happened in San Antonio. So it was an exciting time. Austin, here in Texas, Austin has a climate plan. Houston just passed one. Dallas is getting ready to. So hopefully we're seeing some really good changes happening here in Texas.
Great. You have a few questions here. One is, what do you think are the qualities that make a good organizer? And what are some of your key learnings in how to move public opinion?
I think the biggest key is being able to work with so many different groups. I think you also have to be very, very aware of the communities that are most impacted. Like I mentioned earlier, I grew up near the coal plant, the refinery, the toxic waste dump. You have to go into those communities. You got to know that you've got to go into those communities that are most affected by industry, by pollution, and be able to hear their stories and let those communities really take the lead on what they want to see in their future. What do they see for their communities? How do they see cleaning their air or cleaning up their water? So you've got to be able to listen to the grassroots groups. I'm not part of a big green organization, but we are a large organization. The big greens need to listen to the smaller groups and what their concerns are and how do they want to address those issues those environmental issues that impact them the most. I've learned to lean on certain people that are experts in this industry. I came in with my heart. I came in knowing that I wanted to see a different Texas, a different future for myself and for my son. But I learned that, hey, it's okay, reach out to like the Sierra Club and these different organizations for that knowledge, and also be willing to just reach out to people that you normally wouldn't work with. For me, it's working with youth, because their voice is so powerful and they have these great ideas, and they're very motivated and they're very worried about their future. So I really enjoy working with those people as well.
Great. And what does the work with the labor unions look like specifically?
So we are in very early stages of our conversations with labor. I just know that in order to do any type of just transition, that labor has to be a part of that. Across the country, we're seeing that the big labor groups are wanting to be more involved in climate work. They see the big picture, that there is a crisis. They also see that there is opportunity in clean energy, that we are in some areas that we're moving closer or faster to renewable energy. So they know that we need to have them. We need to have them there. But it's like I said, got to have them at the table and just be willing to have those conversations with them. But for us, it's very recent and ongoing.
Great. And just wanted to bring in the gender lens for a moment. You're an alumni of Women's Earth Alliance Grassroots Accelerator, which is a circle of women grassroots environmental leaders. And just wanted to ask you why you think women specifically are well positioned to lead in these situations and to succeed and to scale these initiatives that they're bringing forth.
Right. I think first and foremost, we're caring, we're nurturers. We, whether you're a mother or not, because I don't want to necessarily say it's just moms leading these movements. But I think women were just naturally want to make things right and take care of our families, whether it's our children, our nieces and nephews. I think even if I didn't have a son, I'd want a better world for my nieces and nephews. Um, we are problem solvers. We are doers. You know, we take charge of our own household. We have to run our own household, you know, balance checkbooks, get groceries. We're used to multitasking to the point that it exhausts us. But I think that's probably the biggest thing, is that we care for our families, we care about our communities, and we want to make things right. And it's not just in the climate movement. You know, look at Moms Demand Action. You know, it's women who are taking the lead in protecting our communities from, you know, gun violence. So, and I think, you know, from going through the Accelerator and being with the group that I was part of in 2019, I saw so many women who just worked endlessly for what they wanted, what for what they were working on in their community, and they wanted so much to make a difference in their communities, whether they're moms or not. You know, they just kept on working. And so yeah, women are going to get it done. Women are going to get that. I mean, take a look at it. You know, who brought so much of the youth climate movement to the global stage? It was, you know, it was Greta. And you know, for a while, who was getting arrested all the time in DC? It was Jane Fonda and other people that she brought with her. You know, we look at what's going on in the global South. It's indigenous women who are fighting for their land, and they're trying to keep the mining companies from exploiting and extracting and destroying their communities. So it's all over. Women are going to make it happen.
All right. We have one more question here before we start talking about next steps and ways that we can get involved with this movement. It says, you mentioned wanting to shut down in 5 to 10 years. What type of action would have to happen so this could happen sooner rather than later? What would you need to start seeing?
Well, for us here in San Antonio, our utility company has plans to burn coal up until 2050, 2060. They just put a new generator in their coal plants last year. So, you know, as utility companies, they have a responsibility to their, you know, to their customers, keeping the lights on and keeping rates low. So they insist that if they were to close the coal plant sooner than, or you know, sooner than they were expecting, that it would cause rates to go up. And we don't want that. We don't want utility rates to go. Well, we always want to make sure that the lights turn on and our ACs are blowing cold air. As I mentioned before, this is a very tight utility to work with. So we've been working a long time to try and get some of the financial numbers that justify them wanting to burn coal to 2050 or 2060. So that's probably the first step, is really a big hurdle for us that we're trying to work through. Is getting that information and sharing it with the public and saying, look, we can have a different world here in San Antonio. We can have clean, renewable energy that still provides good jobs, that is good for our environment, that makes our air cleaner. So that is like taking that information and taking it to the public and say, we can have a different world. Great. Because at the end of the day, who could argue with, hey, my lights are still on, my rates are affordable, and it's good for our environment. It's not killing our planet.
Yes, and I am here calling from my home above Richmond, California, looking down on the Chevron refinery. And I wanted, you know, oftentimes I see that every day. I see the, you know, plumes that come from it. Yes. And I know that, you know, these issues are in a lot of places, and the people on this call are in a lot of places around the world. So we would love to know how, yes, we can support you in your movement, but also some suggestions for getting involved in clean energy and renewable energy where we are in the world.
Right. You know, to support our work, what I'd like to know, if and we can share this on here, is I would really like to get an email from everybody on this call to know what are you working on? Is it coal? Is it natural gas? You know, what are y'all working on, so that we can share best practices. I'd like to know what people are doing. I'd like to know what's going on. So, you know, Sarita, in Richmond, you know, I drove through there when we were going. I mean, we went past it when we went from the airport to our WIA convening, and to see that, like, I want to know what are people doing in California to make their community safer. How do you, it's just, I mean, I can't even describe to you all on this call, like where Sarita lives and the monstrosity of the refinery there. It is like, how do the groups organize there? Like, I'd like to know that, and it's not for this call, but yeah, I'd like to get everybody, give y'all my email address, because I'd like to know, how are y'all working through your environmental injustice issues, and what could I take away from that, and then share some more of what we're doing here in San Antonio.
Great. Do you want to type your email address into the chat for everyone?
Sure, I can do that. I'm doing it right now.
And I think, I mean, I know that we mentioned that we won't go over an hour, but we won't necessarily be an hour on this call either. But we do have some time now, if anybody, and I know I can see that we have women from all around the world and men from around the world on this call. If anyone does want to take a moment to share what is going on in their community and what they see and how people are mobilizing or some of the issues that they're dealing with, please do either raise your hand or put a message in the chat box. So you're saying, DeeDee, that one way that we could support you is by emailing you and sharing some of the strategies going on in our community?
Right.
That's fantastic. And would anyone like to share what clean energy stories that you have or strategies here on the call? Amira would like to share. Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So good to be together during this wild time. Just to have a virtual hang with all of you feels really good. So thank you for all your sharing, DeeDee. I'm struck because where I grew up, there was a nuclear power plant nearby, and we all knew it was there, but no one really knew what it was doing. It was just a general sense that it wasn't awesome. But now, 30 years later, 25 years later, of my 8 girlfriends who I graduated high school with, only 2 of us have not had breast cancer. And there's a lot of early, breast cancer and other illnesses. And I just keep feeling like those intersections that people have on a personal level with disease seem to be the gateway for awareness. And it's such a hard thing to talk about. And when someone's grieving, it's really difficult to try and lump that in with systemic oppression and how to articulate it. So even me with my own childhood community, where I don't organize there right now, I'm here on the West Coast. But I wonder if you have any thoughts on that. Like, how have you helped communities draw that link?
I think health I think health issues, okay, let me step back. You know, we talk about climate change, we talk about climate crisis, and there's this big thing that for some people it's hard to grasp. And, you know, it's like this big picture, there's climate change, and we say that and you know, we know that most Americans are concerned about the climate crisis and what to do about it, but they don't really understand what's causing it. So you have to take things like for us, to the coal power plants, and bring it to an issue that people understand. That's health. And you know, for us, it's asthma here in in this county. We have a higher rate of children having to go to the emergency room because of asthma attacks. When you talk about asthma, when you talk about health, people get it. You know, they understand that. And you got to connect the two. It's not just the coal part, it's not just the pollution coming from the coal plants that is causing asthma attacks, but that is one of the factors. It is that, you know, the poor quality of air that we're breathing. When you can make that connection. So prior to me coming to Public Citizen, I worked with Latina moms in organizing, and they understood, and that's why they wanted to come into this space and fight for clean air, is because they knew that the air that their children were breathing had a lot to do with their asthma and the asthma attacks, or that, you know, on high ozone days, you're not supposed to go out and play. So I would say that just make the connection between what's happening in our air or water and the health impacts it's having in our community. So yeah, I totally get that, because like I said, I live near that military base that just spewed toxic pollution, and they still haven't remediated it. I mean, the rates of breast cancer have gone down, but back in the 90s, so many women, same thing, had breast cancer.
I also wanted to share that in Richmond, the asthma rate with the refinery is 17% and 8% average California-wide. So it's been a big, you know, health has been, and we also have Kaiser, which is a hospital kind of chain. I don't know how else to call it. So between those factors, I think there a lot of the mobilization that happens within Richmond uses that fact to harness resources from the government and from Chevron itself, actually, you know, to give back to the community and
Right.
to make things better.
Right.
So I've seen a lot of that as well. All right. Are there any other questions for DeeDee or comments before we? Okay, then DeeDee, we just want to thank you so much for hosting this conversation. It's so important that we gather. Like Amira said, it feeds our soul just to have these sort of fireside chats
Right.
and conversation our work. We also want to let everyone know that the application process for the 2020 Accelerator, Grassroots Accelerator, the same sort of program that DeeDee was a part of last year, the application and nomination process is open now and will be for 2 more weeks. And we would love it if you would, you know, let people know in your network that this opportunity is there. And maybe DeeDee, we could close with, you know, what the Accelerator did for you and your work, and how that was positive for you.
Well, first meeting all the incredible women. One of them is on this call, Monica. She's crazy, but I love her, and we keep in touch. We talk, we talk on the phone, and she gives me plant tips and gardening tips, and you know, that long-lasting friendship and love. But also, you know, having this opportunity to be able to speak to people that I've, you know, from across the country, from across the world, to talk about your work, and getting other women to help you and support you. There's this is not easy work, and and it's not a work that like hundreds of thousands of people come out and help you. So to have just a handful of women are just like on your side doing, doing whatever they can to promote your work, support your work. That's incredible. I just can't think of another group of women who do that, that help me with that. So if any of y'all on this call are thinking about the Accelerate, please look more into it, apply for it, and you will definitely not regret it.
Excellent. So we have the link for the 2020 US Accelerator for more information, and also a link. It has links to the application and nomination forms. And we just also wanted to tell you that next month, in the month of June, Women's Earth Alliance is, I see you, Monica. Women's Earth Alliance is hosting a fermentation festival as part of this world.
Oh, so cool.
It's going to be so cool, as Monica says. And we really hope to see all of you on some or all of the fabulous offerings that we will provide. We're going to, you'll see more information about it upcoming, and we will send it to you an email now that we have all of your emails. And Monica had her hand raised, so I'm going to pass the floor to her.
Hey, hi everybody. It's wonderful to see you and the fabulous Miss DeeDee. I really enjoyed this. This was really cool. I learned so much. I'm more of a generalist, and this inspired me to learn more about what are the clean energy initiatives. Here in the city, I generally talk about very general things in my permaculture classes, kind of solutions and techniques, but I don't know any specifics, so I really appreciate this conversation. Thank you for organizing this. And DeeDee, thank you for all the amazing work that you do down in Texas. So cool.
Thank you.
And yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of women on this call who are doing fabulosity. So thank you all.
Wonderful. Thanks, Monica, for that. And just a last note is that
DeeDee, I'm going to call you DeeDee.
You better.
Wonderful. Last note is that the link to the recording of this call will be posted on our on the section of our website. There's a link to it on the first page, on the home page, which is a COVID response page. And there's links to this World Weaver Salon and all past World Weaver Salons. There's been some amazing content. And we cannot thank you enough, DeeDee, for just taking the time to share with us tonight. It's been such a blessing. So thank you.
Thanks again for having me. Y'all be safe. And I put my email address in the chat box. Please send me an email. I'd like to know what y'all are doing. I'd like to get some thoughts, get some online conversations going. So for all of y'all out there, just keep on doing what y'all are doing too. Keep the fight up.
Thank you, DeeDee.
Be safe. Thank
Good night, everyone. Good morning if you're in Southeast Asia, and see you next time. Bye-bye. Thanks for coming.
you.